everyone, my name is Jarrett Allen and I'm the Vice President of PMI Riverside. We're a local property management company here in Riverside, California, and we currently oversee about $30 million worth of rental property. In today's video, we're going to talk about the California Fair Housing Act, and if you own rental property in Riverside, California, understanding these laws is going to be really important, okay? The California Fair Housing Act is just, it's essential, okay? The law protects tenants from discrimination, and it ensures that everyone has equal rights and access to housing, regardless of personal characteristics, okay? Many landlords may unintentionally violate this law by overlooking some key details, so we're going to break down exactly what you need to know. Cool? Sound good? Awesome. Let's get into it. So, the California Fair Housing Act is a state law designed to eliminate discrimination in housing, right? It guarantees that every person has the right to seek, rent, buy, or live in housing without being denied based on their certain personal characteristics that are legally protected. These characteristics are specifically outlined in the law and are referred to as the protected classes. So this law is applying across California, and it does have local city limits or different things that Riverside has as well, right? So it covers a wide range of housing providers, from individual landlords to property managers, real estate agents, and the HOAs. Now, while there are federal fair housing laws in place, again, California's protections go beyond what federal law mandates. The state's law reinforces the regulations that the federal side adds, and then they even add more detailed protections. So, as a landlord in Riverside, it's important to follow both state and federal guidelines. Now, we're going to talk about what the actual specific things are, okay? The law prohibits discrimination against individuals in any housing-related transactions based on the following categories, okay? Race, color, religion, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, marital status, national origin, ancestry, familial status, which means whether someone has children, source of income, which includes housing vouchers or government assistance, disability, which includes physical or mental disabilities, veteran or military status, and then genetic information, that's 15, okay? Discrimination can manifest in many different ways, so that could be a landlord refusing to rent to someone because they receive Section 8 housing assistance. It's going to be a violation, right? Or a rental ad that says, hey, we don't like kids, please, no kids recommended or whatever, or a property manager offering different rental terms based on someone's background would be considered all that discriminatory, okay? Even something as steering a prospective tenant away from a neighborhood based on their race, religion, or sexual orientation violates the law. In short, if you treat tenants or applicants different because any of these protected categories, you could be in violation of the law. Now, the Fair Housing Act does not just apply to the application process, okay? It covers literally every single aspect of the landlord-tenant relationship. This includes how you advertise your property, screen potential tenants, lease agreements, rent increases, maintenance requests, and even evictions, okay? Discriminating against tenants or applicants at any stage of the rental process is a violation, which is why it's so important to standardize your procedures to ensure that you're treating every single tenant equally, okay? Awesome. I know that's a lot of information that I'm just throwing at you, but this law is taken very seriously in California, okay? It's enforced quite heavily. The Civil Rights Department, previously known as the Department of Fair Housing and Employment, I think that's the right one, is the agency responsible for overseeing fair housing complaints and enforcing that law. If tenants believe they've been discriminated against, they can file a complaint with that agency, which can investigate the matter and potentially impose penalties on the landlord. So, why is the California Fair Housing Act important, okay? It's not just about avoiding fines or penalties, it's about creating a fair and ethical environment for both landlords and tenants. By following the law, you ensure that housing decisions are based on objective criteria, not on personal biases or stereotypes. It creates an environment where all individuals, regardless of their background, have equal access to housing. Okay? So, when landlords follow the Fair Housing Act, they also build a reputation for fairness and professionalism. Tenants appreciate landlords who treat them with respect and create communities that are inclusive and welcoming. This kind of approach helps you attract reliable tenants, build long-term relationships, and reduce tenant turnover, which in turn means fewer vacancies, more stable rental income, and more money in general. There's also the legal side and the financial side of things to consider. If a landlord is found in violation of the FHA, the Fair Housing Act, the penalties can be very, very, very severe, okay? Tenants who feel they've been discriminated against can file those complaints like we just talked about, and the department can pursue legal action, or they can pursue legal action, the tenant, and if a violation is confirmed, the landlord could face civil penalties, compensatory damage to the tenant, attorney fees, and punitive damages, depending on the severity of the violation. In some cases, landlords could even be required to undergo a fair housing training to prevent future violations. In addition to these penalties, a fair housing violation can harm your reputation as a landlord. Okay, you're going to get a bunch of complaints probably about discrimination, which often become public record, and a history of violations can make it harder for you to rent properties or attract investors, You could also face challenges with obtaining necessary licenses or permits to operate your rental business. Okay, so let's talk about who needs to actually follow the Fair Housing Act. The short answer, literally pretty much everyone, okay? Doesn't matter who you are, if you're in providing, managing, or advertising housing in California in some form, you are responsible for following this law. Whether you're a large corporation or an individual renting out a single-family home, you have to comply with the law, okay, folks? It always is going to apply to you. It always applies to all types of housing, whether it's a single-family home, a duplex, an apartment building, short-term rentals, HOA, anything. If you rent, lease, or sell any kind of housing, you are expected to follow fair housing laws. This includes real estate agents, property managers, and even homeowners who rent out their house for the very first time. Even vendors or maintenance staff working at rental properties can be held accountable if their actions contribute to a discriminatory practice or environment. Okay? Now, those who rent out a property they inherited or no longer live in also need to be aware of that Fair Housing Act. We call them accidental landlords, right? Just because you're a part-time landlord on the side doesn't mean you can ignore these laws. In fact, it means you need to make sure that you understand them even more. Any rental activity you conduct in Riverside is subject to these rules, and in addition to the state and federal fair housing laws, the local ordinance that Riverside has in place is another thing that you guys really need to be aware of. The city enforces these laws through the Human Relations Commission, which partners with the Civil Rights Department to investigate any complaints that might come across their desk. Now, the city also runs fair housing education programs to ensure landlords know their responsibilities. For example, in Riverside, any language in rental ads that can be interpreted as discriminatory is prohibited. If your rental ad, again, says no kids or something like ideal for single professionals, those could be violations, right? The city takes these rules seriously, and violating them can lead to complaints or legal action. Another important point is that Riverside encourages landlords to provide reasonable accommodations for tenants with disabilities. This includes housing service animals or making necessary modifications to those rental units. Denying these requests can be considered discrimination. Trust me, there are some really annoying tenants out there that do that. As a landlord in Riverside, it's crucial to understand these local ordinances and how they relate to fair housing enforcement. Ignorance of the law will not protect you, and violations, whether intentional or not, can have serious consequences. You should always stay up to date on local fair housing laws, and even if you don't want to, sometimes partnering with a property management company can help if you're unsure about any laws, okay? And it's also really important to recognize some of the common mistakes that landlords make, often unintentionally. For example, landlords may unknowingly use discriminatory language in their rental ads. Even saying something like perfect for singles or Christian household preferred, executive suite only for professionals, students only, stuff like that can be seen as discriminatory. These kinds of statements suggest a preference for certain tenants, which violates fair housing laws. Another common mistake is applying different criteria to different applicants. For instance, requiring higher income or more documentation from tenants of a particular race or national origin is illegal. You must treat all applicants equally and assess them based on consistent criteria. And I know that I keep saying the same thing over and over and over, but that's how important it is. You have to understand it. I'm going to beat it into your head if I have to, okay? Because, guys, it's so important that you do this and you follow this, or else you will lose so much money and the Fair Housing Board will come down at you with a silver hammer. Now, other than that, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comment or email me at jared@pmiriverside.com. For now, peace.